Hello everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's working late tonight, and this is Smokey Steve and Mark. Either welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. It is not coffee talk, but I am having coffee. And our fair lady was actually the inspiration for today's video. But we'll get to that in a second, so I hope everyone's well, I hope everyone's safe. I have a sty or something in this eye, so that's why it looks half closed and a little greasy. It started last night. I had some medication on hand from before, so that's the greasiness, and I'm hoping it goes away because it hurts like a bitch. It's like a hangnail. It's how can such pain come from a small area? But at any rate, so we are going to have a story time today. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of a day in the life, insight, looking into rehabilitation, drug and alcohol rehabilitation, people with substance use disorders. I've been in inpatient treatment 5 times, 4 different rehabs. One place I went to twice. I was in a halfway house, and I was in outpatient longer than I was in college. And I finished college, so it was like years and years and years. But I'm going to give you a sneak peek into inpatient treatment for people who may be family members and don't know what they might be encouraging a family member who's struggling to go into, to give people who may be looking for help an idea of what they could be walking into, something like that. First, we have a contest winner to pick. So for anybody who watched Monday's video, Mondays with Mark, he ran a contest. All you had to do was comment below on his video, and you get the chance to win a Good Vibes t-shirt, which I don't have one right in front of me, and a $15 Dairy Queen gift card. It was the ice cream shop episode. He made a bunch of ice creamy type things. It was cool. So I'm going through commentpicker.com/YouTube, and I put in the URL, and there were 57 unique comments. All right, so I'm going to hit start, and it says start raffle and pick random winner. So we're going to see here. Who do we got? Who wins? The winner is Jen. The comment was, I love peppermint ice cream. We'll definitely make the banana ice cream next week when my vegan sister comes to visit. More ice cream videos, please. The banana ice cream was delicious. I'm no vegan, and I thought it was good. So congratulations, Jen. You will need to get in touch with us. We need a mailing address, somewhere to send it to. So send us an email, hit us up on Instagram, or Facebook through the Messenger. And we will get in touch with you and get that out to you. So thank you very much for everyone who commented, and congratulations, Jen. So let's chat. Now, Mark was here on Saturday when we talked about the more informed side. Mark has more of a clinical bit of education in addiction, and he has lived experience. I have lived experience just looking around at it. I don't have any formal training in drug and alcohol, so I'm just going to tell you what it was like from my end of things. Now, rehab didn't happen by accident. I started off getting sicker and sicker and sicker leading up to it. It wasn't like I had a drink and it was like, oh God, the next day I had to go. I'd been sick for years and years and years and years. So I had to go the first day into detox because it was not safe medically for me to stop at home. Mistakes I think some people make is that they'll take, especially with alcohol or pills, the detox from any drug is hellish usually. To some degree. Might last a day, might last 30, depends on the drug. And well-meaning people will sometimes take someone's drugs or alcohol if they're dependent and dump them down the drain. And that's well-intended. You want to save the person's life. But if someone's going into treatment and they're going to be safe medically detoxed, they may need to continue using up until they get there. Which sounds so backwards, but I actually had worked with my probation officer and my drug and alcohol counselor that when I had a date booked out to go to treatment, I was still drinking minimally up until that point, and they were aware of it because they said he's going to get sick. He's going to have a seizure, something. So let's say you get to rehab, and it's nursing for a while. Take your pressure, what's your drug, how much did you use? I didn't know what to tell them because at a certain point I had fallen so far down, I was drinking Listerine. So even the woman at intake scowled. But not a lot of people fall that far, and it becomes like their solitary, thing of choice. So a lot of blood work to make sure I'm not lying about anything I took, that I didn't try to overdose on my way in. They run tests for Tylenol, for aspirin, for all sorts of stuff in your system they can test for. They don't start giving you medication if you've come in drunk or high. They have to wait until you start to go into withdrawal before they can give it to you. So the people who were in my room in detox, there was like 3 or 4 guys all split in beds. The actual rooms you go into were a little more comfortable. But detox was very medical, very small space. And my roommates were coming off of heroin. One of them was just was abusing a bunch of party drugs, like ecstasy and acid and all that sort of stuff. And he was quite interesting. And my roommate started getting into withdrawal in the middle of the night, my first night there. And he was sick. He was so sick. He was throwing up. And that's when they could start dosing him with the detox medication, the med-assisted treatment that he was using to get himself off of it. So it was safe. So he would stay. Because it sounds like, I think for some people, oh, good, you got sick, you deserve it. Maybe you won't do it again next time if you get sick. Sick is enough to send some people out. People walk out of rehab during detox often to go use. It's not uncommon. I saw it a bunch of times from being in rehab a bunch of times. So food doesn't sound so good initially, but getting safe and getting hooked up out of detox, then move off into another part of either the grounds of the facility or a different part of the hospital sometimes, and you're into the general population. So then it's meeting a therapist, and often small group therapy, which replaces individual therapy in a lot of places, especially if most of the patients are on Medicaid. If places accept private insurance, sometimes there's resources for more individual time, but I've only ever had the experience of meeting with an individual therapist once a week, and then group therapy 3 to 4 times a week to fill in the space. So up after detox, up early in the morning, there's an expectation that you're up at like 7. And there's always people who are going to start their life over, and they start walking at 5:30 in the morning and going on, how many laps around this and that, and somebody's quit. For every one person that quits smoking, 5 people start. A lot of rehabs can't smoke now. So I'd go out for a morning smoke myself. I would not exercise. The coffee, it's always a conspiracy whether or not it's actually decaf or real coffee. We're all murmuring among each other, and the staff are dodgy with the answers. So have some coffee. Breakfast wraps up around 8. You have a little free time, and then there's roll calls every so often throughout the day, depending on the facility. I was in one where they would take attendance every 15 minutes because it was more geared towards mental health, but by and large, they would just take our attendance a few times in the morning, a few times in the afternoon, just to see what we were up to. We would have, at 9 o'clock, the morning meeting, where they read the rules every day. If there was a fire, what to dial, what the rules were for the dress code, all that kind of stuff. And then we would have a morning lesson where they would do an psychoeducation, psychoed. And it would be about relapse prevention or long-term effects of drugs or the relapse model, how the relapse starts before the relapse, kind of like Mark had said. All sorts of different recovery stuff. And the first time I was there, of course, I was rapt trying to learn all this because I had no idea about what I had been doing. I never thought of myself as addicted to anything. I just thought I was a mess. And I was like, it's all making sense. It's all making sense. By the second time I was there, I was like, my life's too far gone to fix. I'm just killing time until I die. I was like, looking around. So after the lecture, we would have small group therapy. So we'd go down to another part of the building, and it would be me and a bunch of other guys. One time I was there, we were broken out by age. I was the oldest in the group. I was 25 or something. 25? I was 25, I think. And everyone else in the group was like 18 to 25. Now, I was relatively young for someone whose drug of choice was alcohol, at least at the time that I was there. Everyone else in my group had different drugs, which had different subcultures, which had different illegal activities. And so when they would share war stories, I couldn't join in. It had nothing to do with me. Another time I was there, I was in with people that were much older than me in the men's group. And those were tough. They would rank us 1 to 10. Who needs to talk the most today? And there was always some asshole who had to talk the most. And they talked the most in every meeting. And they asked the most questions. Some of us are sicker than others. And some of us need more support. And apparently he needed to verbalize a lot in order to heal. So he talked a lot. So every day it was a 10 he had to talk. And I sat there for 3 days and I said, 3, I don't want to talk. And then they put me on the spot and said, Steve, we need to hear from you today. So I said something, I don't know. Probably mildly funny. I made them giggle, and then I didn't want to talk anymore. Then they made me wring out a towel because they said they thought I had pent up anger. I was on so much lithium at the time. I wasn't angry at anything. Um, because they had switched all my meds off because they said, we don't treat bipolar here. I was like, well, that doesn't mean I'm not bipolar. It just means that you don't treat it. So they switched me off from my other meds to lithium to just kind of keep me calm until I leave, I guess. And I didn't really click with the other guys in my group at the time. It just wasn't. One of them was my roommate, too. And we just didn't, we didn't click. I didn't click with too many other people. Initially, because you don't know anybody and everyone has their own friends, and who do you sit with at breakfast and who do you sit with at lunch? Every table has 4 and everyone has 4 friends, and you either sit with the new guys or you sit with the ones no one wants to sit with. And it's nerve-wracking. It's like the first day of school. And everyone has friends and you don't, and everyone's healthy and you know, living sober, and you're not. So group therapy's over, then we have lunch. Lunch is good or bad, depending on the treatment center. Again, I went to one that had shrimp on the salad bar, and another one that had like mystery meat. You know, some places you can go back for seconds and it's all you can eat, and another place if you go back for seconds too many, like the cooks will tell you no, you get 1 meal and that's it. So, and then after lunch, little break time, and then we would have recreational therapy. Now the first day, when you're in detox, you're not supposed to go. But somehow I slid through the cracks because I wasn't staying in my detox room. I was wanting to be out and about. And they were giving me phenobarbital, which I had never heard of before. It's a barbiturate, apparently, they use for detox. And I take my phenobarbital, and we go out to the ropes course. Okay. Now, I'm not a big ropes course kind of guy. Granted, these were only a foot off the ground. But I was so geeked out that I was like, woohoo, let's go! And we did that. So, interacting with everyone in the rehab, and we're divided by gender. The men and the women aren't supposed to even talk to each other in the smoking section, or sit next to each other in lectures, or eat together at lunch. Like, there's no interaction because it's a distraction from recovery. So I'm sitting there with 60 men. 60 men. And I'm still not supposed to talk to women. So what am I supposed to do? You know, so I end up talking to the guys, and of course I get my straight guy crush. I don't remember who he was now, but it's something to think about between boring lectures and stuff, and I develop it, like, in the first week or so. So, lunch, rec therapy, where I'm whacked out, and when I stop being whacked out, I don't usually care to participate. It was the only thing that was negative on my chart, as they said I wouldn't participate in rec therapy. I said, well, it's challenge by choice. The fact that I even chose to go seemed like a big deal because I was in this precocious, bratty mood the whole time I was there. I was mortified that I got myself into those circumstances, and I was feigning superiority about the whole thing. So I was very withdrawn, and when approached, bitter and a little obnoxious. So after rec therapy, which I didn't like, we had another afternoon lecture or activity, and I hate group work. Just give me something to fill out and I'll give it back to you. So group work could have been, I don't know, everybody get together in a group and come up with a poster about recovery. Everyone get together in a group and write a song, do a skit. So we would do that. And then there was a very short thing before dinner because the meals were at like 5. They were at like 8, 11:30, and 5. And that's it. So little short something or another. Sometimes they would have a recovery book study. Usually day 1, depending on the rehab, they will give you one of these. This is a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. They usually call it the big book. Sometimes the blue book, depends on the country. You may get, which I don't have, one for Narcotics Anonymous, depending on, you know, again, which place you're going to for treatment, the popularity of either program. The rehab I went to only had NA meetings twice a week, and AA meetings sometimes twice a day. It depends. A lot of the staff at one rehab I went to were in recovery, but the side split of that is that they were all in recovery through a 12-step program and AA. So there wasn't much attention given to any other model of recovery at all. And if you were wanting to participate in Narcotics Anonymous and not AA, there was very little access to it. So, but you get one of these. There's people who carry this around all day. Every time they stop, they open up a page and read out of it. And you carry it everywhere. And you read out of it all the time. And they would have big book studies where you'd pick a story out of it and read. We would have big book discussions where you'd read something from the beginning. I've had like 3 of these because I get one, lose it, throw it out after rehab, get one, lose it. After the last rehab, I just held on to it because I was in AA for a couple years after the last rehab I went to. So you have one of those, then dinner, then a little free time, and then we have a 12-step meeting. Okay. So every night. And some were open to the public, so they could come into the rehab, so HIPAA be damned. And then some meetings were not. So they say it's an anonymous program. They can't tell anyone who they saw here. Bullshit! I'm in a rehab. Get them the fuck out. But that's not my call. So the 12-step meetings in a rehab, most people are new. They may have been sober since last night. So one of the things that this 12-step groups around here would do is give out coins to commemorate certain milestones in sobriety. And some people think they're horseshit and some people think they help. If you have a desire to stop using a substance or to stop drinking is what they usually say in AA. People who have substance use orders other than alcohol as a drug of choice will often go to NA if it's the only thing around. And they say, well, just substitute your drug for alcohol, which maybe you can do. But when you're newly sober and they give you these coins, you get something called a desire chip. All you need, the only qualification for membership in AA is a desire to stop drinking. You just have to want to. You can actually be drunk when you go. And then on the back, it has the Serenity Prayer, which is very cute. Now, because I was in and out of AA a lot, I have this one, and this one, and this one. I have enough desire chips to start a freaking beginner's meeting. So I have those. And then my home group at the time, in rehab I wouldn't have had them, but in my home group, 30, 60. I kept going. I have a 1-year coin and a 2-year coin. And then after that, I stopped going to AA. I don't regret going. It was a lot of help for me. It was getting me re-socialized. It was something to do. I got a key to go open a church, and make coffee when I got there. It was thinking about other people than myself, however begrudgingly. And it got me out of myself a little bit. It was a reason to leave because I was unemployable by the time I got sober. So at the meeting, they bully you, encourage you to get up and get a coin. This is the part where we slip into cult think. Get a coin. You have to. You have to. Don't you value your recovery? Well, yeah, but I mean, it's been a day. So, after that, evenings are usually pretty quiet. You can watch TV, you can do laundry, independent study, which means do whatever the hell you want, and then go to bed. So, some people read their big book. So, they might have leftover food or snack time. Every place had snack time. The kitchen would come up and it would have, depending on the place, peanut butter packets with graham crackers, or leftover desserts, or sometimes leftovers from dinner, or cereal and milk, or hugs, those little barrel things, and Lorna Doone cookies, the little ones, they were so good. Smart popcorn in the little bags, Nutri-Grain bars, granola bars, all stuff like that. Because if your last meal is at 5, and you got to go into the next day, there's no food, and only one place had a vending machine. So that's rehab in a day, more or less, put together. That's an amalgam of a few. Now, what is it like at the end? That's the whole day, and it repeats on a loop. Every week, it repeats on a loop. So it recycles. So you may have different things to do on Thursday than you did on Tuesday, but don't worry. In the coming week, the cycle continues. And just like any other facility, the food recycles on like a 21-day cycle. So if you're there a long time, you'll start to eat the same stuff again. It was like that in jail, too. It just starts over again. The things that you look forward to often is food, the 1 or 2 fun friends that I would make and getting to see them, smoke breaks, which a lot of places are going non-smoking, actually, so I better keep my shit together, honestly. And those were the only breaks and things that maybe you look forward to for so little private time, because you're stuck with a bunch of people and living with someone that you don't get to choose. You just have to be an adult about it. And for folks who maybe haven't been adulting in a long time, like I wasn't, I had not been adulting for years, everyone had been adulting for me. You know, we'll say they kind of held me up, and I loosely by age was 20 something, but by functioning I was probably more like 10. I had to have things done for me, or I wouldn't be able to be alive, pretty much. So it's scary. It's scary. Getting there is scary, and then the prospect of leaving is scary. So as I'm on my way out the door, you know, I still have my big book. And I have my coins. I'm not there long enough to get a 30-day coin, because insurance won't pay out that long, usually. 21 days is much more what people go through now instead of 28. Or 90. Some places drop the buck and pay 90 days of treatments because the outcomes are better, and they don't want to pay 28 days 6 times. So sometimes I went to 2 90-day places, and that's like camp. You just get stuck in a routine over and over, and you watch people come and go. And even in a rehab for 3 weeks, I'd watch a guy leave, come back, and then leave. Before me, again. On the exit, we take our big books, and people fill them out like yearbooks. So I have notes of encouragement from people who were here. What can I say? You pretty much made my time here. This guy died. I got a lot of dead men's phone numbers. Addiction doesn't discriminate. I was in treatment with doctors. I was in treatment with... 2 weeks before I got there, there was a celebrity who was there. This was a private... The only reason I got to go to this place was because I live in the county where it's located, and county funding plus Medicaid helped cover it. Otherwise, this place was probably $2,000 a day. Very expensive. So there were some well-known people. There were some people who were from the inner city who were able to make their way there. They had scholarship programs. So it was a mixed bag. But I felt like poor white trash, pretty much. All I had really was cigarettes my parents would bring me, and some money for the laundry, and some money for the vending machine. And that was it. So as I was leaving, I have the book, I have some phone numbers, and as months went by and I called them, fewer and fewer people answered the phone. They either went back out, they passed away, and that's unfortunate, because there was a lot of guys I liked. I had mentioned my friend Willie. I did a whole video about him a couple times, and we hung out together, and he was trying to get well, and he was doing as much, if not more, than me, and he died, you know, and I didn't. I don't know why. There was people I knew who tried it harder than I did, and who wanted it more than I did at the time. I was so aloof, and they were trying so hard, and they died, and I didn't. I'm nobody special, and I don't say that to be derogatory or to myself or anything like that. People get well every day, all the time. There's a lot more people you're passing on the street who used to live really shitty lives, and with a little help got it together and moved on, than you may realize. Because they don't look the part. You know, in our heads, we may have an idea of what someone who's, you know, an addict or an alcoholic might look like. But in recovery, you know, some of us go stealth. You know, I'm obviously a little shot out. So, I mean, some of it might show that I've lived a little bit. But, you know, Mark, with the cupcakes and the baking and the gardening, and he's such a gentle soul, I can't imagine what kind of pain he must have been in that drove him to using opiates. I mean, I can't imagine where his mind was at, where his life was at, that he felt, I need relief so bad from my day-to-day that I'd prefer this instead. You know, there's thinking now that trauma is the gateway drug. It's not marijuana, it's not cigarettes, it's trauma. You know, we're looking at addiction differently now. And I think that's good to look at it a little bit of a different way. But people say, you know, what caused it? I don't know. My parents had 3 kids, and I was the one who, you know, we were all successful in our own right, but I was the one who had the most challenges. You know, neither of them were set apart. My brother and sister were not, as adults, derailed in any way for any reason, you know, let alone, you know, marriage problems, sickness, like nothing happened to them. My life was more complicated. I didn't get started on adulting until I was in my 30s. I didn't start saving in a retirement till I was in my 30s. I didn't buy my own car, or my first car, on my own with my own financing and then one with my own cash until I was in my 30s. I missed all that stuff. I just finished college before I started getting sick. So life starts later. It starts after the fact. And, who would have thought? I don't think Mark would have thought, 5 years ago when he was cooking and before he got, sick, that he would have to change careers at almost 50 and have to, use his experience, as awful as it was, and then get trained to translate that into something where he could help somebody else. I mean, I think that's incredible. And it makes it not for nothing. It was terrible it had to happen, but it happened. And even if you're hurting yourself or doing it to yourself, it's still a mess. It's still a mess. I mean, if you're a family of an addict, it sucks you in unless you have some boundaries. And every person's boundaries are different. But it's easy to get sucked in. Because I can tell you, I was messy. I was real messy. And I needed rescuing more than a few times. And mostly my parents jumped in on that. I had a few friends who helped too. And they kept me alive until I got to the help I needed. So they did the bulk of the work. They had to reparent. They didn't have to. They chose to reparent me in my 20s. And it helped. It did help. Other families would have put a person on the street, and that's their prerogative, and that might have helped them get better faster. Maybe I would have got better faster. Maybe I would have taken a bridge. I don't know. But we have a good relationship now. I haven't had a drink in years, and it was worth it. Was the rehab helpful? Rehab was helpful once, maybe twice. It's good for me to get some distance from my environment. They say in recovering people, places, and things to get away from my problems, to try to find out why I'm dealing with my problems so poorly. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with people? Why can't I get along with people? Why do they bother me so much? Why can't I cope with anything? How come at the slightest hint of anger I have to have a drink? How come at the slightest bit of discomfort I'm feeling something, and before I even know what that feeling is, I need to have something to numb it out? And I don't care if I have to step on your neck to go get it. I'm going to do what I need to do to get what I need to get. So we had a few questions actually, and I'm going to use the big book because, like any other great book, there's people who think this is divinely inspired. I'll leave that to you. But there's a story in the back, and you've seen this if you've gone into a treatment center, possibly a mental health facility. It's a quote from the middle of a story. It's on page 417 in the middle. Incidentally, if you have a family member who deals with addiction, 417, and they bring one of these home, feel free to read it. The beginning of the book is like a textbook, kind of how to go through the 12 steps. The 12 steps are the program. The meetings are fellowship. They're a good place to hang out and talk to people. But the actual steps are in the book. And they say have a sponsor do that, like someone who's been through them. But the stories in the back are just people getting better. So if you need something inspiring or comforting, flip to the back of the book. NA has those too. But Acceptance Was the Answer was a story, and it's about this snooty doctor who thinks he's too good for everything, and he ends up in an asylum a couple times. And then his resolution is this, and again, you've probably seen this. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I'm disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life, unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at the moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. That was a bit of a humble knock in the face when I read it. So, that's a nice thing to leave us all on. Acceptance is great. Might not change the situation. Usually doesn't. But it makes it palatable, And I think when the situation's a little more palatable and I have acceptance, I can see sometimes after the fact where I could be useful, helpful, how to troubleshoot it, how to work on it. Before I get all frantic about it, just be like, it is what it is. Let's see if there's room to do anything. And even if there isn't, it is what it is. So that's great for a crackpot like me who gets all upset over, little stuff and sometimes have a hard time going. It just is. It just is. It's out of my control. I'm not responsible for doing anything. It's just watching the show. So, I think we'll wrap it up here. I hope y'all enjoyed a little bit of insight into rehab, what goes on in a day. A couple examples I threw out for you. It's nice to have those experiences be at least a little bit useful. Gave you the tour of the coins, the tour of the book, and we picked a winner for our contest. So please, Jen, again, do get in touch with us so we can send you out a t-shirt and the $15 Dairy Queen gift card. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for watching. Please do subscribe. Please comment below as well. Feel free to comment below, talk with other people who are commenting. You know, it's a fun topic. Don't let it be taboo here. You know, Smokey, Steve, and Mark, you know, we don't, you know, there's no taboos here. So feel free to say what you want to say below. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get alerts when we have new videos and also when they go live, when we go live. You can follow us on Facebook at SmokeySteveAndMarc or on Instagram at SmokeySteveAndMarc. Our email address and our contact information is listed below as well. Thank you again, and we will catch up with you tomorrow. I'm pretty sure we're doing a video tomorrow, so stay tuned, okay? Thanks for watching. Bye.